Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, live at Platform 47, and those of you that are watching us either on the live screen or later, as we have recorded. This is the August meeting of Northside Democracy for America. You can give yourselves a round of applause for that. So my name's Joe, and I'm going to help run the meeting with Ray. We're sort of switching off the host sidekick duties today. And again, thank you all for coming. For those of you in the area, you can still drop by. We are about to start in a very, very busy campaign season. And we're going to be focusing tonight on the 9th Congressional District, which is the district housed or currently represented by the retiring Jan Chakowski. I've been told that there are, as of this moment, 20 declared candidates. We are not having all of them. Don't panic. But we're going to have 3 of them today. For those of you that saw our notice, just a quick note that Representative Han Win will be joining us a little later. He's a little under the weather. Sarah Feigenholz was invited and will not be here tonight as well. So, Ray, do you have some little filling in for intros? This is Ray.
Most of the time. Okay. What's important is on Facebook, for your Facebook people, or you guys are over Facebook, is to press the like, because for our Mary, it really helps us know that you're there. So just a little side note. And then Mary Claire is our notary. And for you people who get...
And Mary.
Oh, and Mary. The Marys are notaries. So at every meeting we'll have them here signing your petitions if you need to. And if you really need a notary, they'll actually meet up with you guys. So that would be, that's it.
Cool.
So, should I talk to you more about this?
Yeah, we're going to spread out the other bits of information. So for those of you that are wondering who the heck is Northside Democracy for America, please take a look at our lovely new poster. Pay attention to the QR code at the bottom of the poster where you can get more information about who we are, what we are, and what we've been doing for a long darn time. We're kind of one of the OG grassroots political organizations in Chicago, and darn proud of it. Also, NorthsideDFA.com for those of you, again, who are old school. All right, so before we actually get into and hear from our first wave of 9th District candidates, we're going to take a little excursion. This is something we like to do every once in a while. Again, NDFA does focus on getting progressives into office. We focus on candidates. Does that mean we don't care about issues? Not at all. And so we had a last-minute request that we're going to be able to fill. A representative from the Northside Tenants Union to talk about some housing issues of importance locally, nationally. I will let him introduce himself because I did not get his name. That host. Andrew?
Was it?
Sean.
Sean.
Okay, Sean.
Anyway, Sean from the Northside Tenants Union.
Hi, I'm Sean Sullivan from the Chicago Union of Tenants. We are a tenant union that is attempting to fight the housing crisis, something that we in Chicago know very well and dear. So we are organized in 2 buildings right now, one in Chinatown, Hilliard Tenant Association, and one in Rogers Park, which is the Blunt Tenant Association. And housing crisis for us looks like cockroaches, it looks like high rent, it looks like terrible maintenance, absentee landlords, and just generally an extraordinarily depressing state in terms of housing in Chicago. And the worst part is that Chicago isn't even the worst city when it comes to this. And what we are trying to do is to organize tenants. We are a dues-paying organization, so if you have donation money, I'm sorry, but please become a member and pay dues there. So what we're trying to do is essentially organize tenants. We've seen a wide variety of tenants in crisis all across the city, one of which we are currently trying to help during a rent strike. That's the Bellman Sawyer Tenant Union. who are on the west side. If you can, please donate to their strike fund, who are on strike for 6 months now. Let them win. It is fantastic to see tenants rise up and tenants fight their landlords, because it's something that progressives and Democrats need to care about. That when it comes to, if you are running for office, please support your local tenant union, because sending money to absentee landlords who are in Silicon Valley, who are in New York City, who are outside of Chicago, and even sometimes outside of the United States of America, only degrades our towns, only degrades our cities, and it's generally just a horrible, corrupt thing. We are fighting for low rents, affordable housing, and clean living conditions, because that is the only way that we are going to get democracy back, is by fighting greedy, corrupt, and self-interested landlords and other owners. I invite you for other questions.
Yeah, just give us contact information.
Sure. Instagram, Chicago Union of Tenants. You can go on there, find us there. That's the main way. If you have any questions or you want to organize your building, please reach out.
Do you have any current organizations going in terms of groups?
We're working with ATU on the west side, All Tenants Unite. We're also working with ACTA, All Chicago Tenants, something else. I'm sorry, a lot of acronyms. Just go to Instagram, look up ATU, ACTA, ACTU, or CUT, which I'm representative of, Chicago Union of Tenants. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions?
Any questions? The advantage of being here is you're going to be able to talk to folks there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are there specific housing policies at the federal level that you want people here to be aware of?
So at the federal level, the main thing is antitrust. Is that the housing market has been consolidated into the hands of very few firms that are mostly using it for financial gain. We are seeing it across Chicago, where landlords are selling to million and billion dollar firms that are using it to extract money from us. And these people are just turning around and giving that money to the fascists in power. So if you'd like to directly stop that funding, help tenant unions. Antitrust is the answer. Any other questions? Yep.
Who do you target? Because you have two housing. Are you looking at large housing structures that are corporate owned or foreign owned, or are you looking at maybe a mom and pop who has a basement that they're not upkeeping? Like, is it any tenants in Chicago, or are there particular ones that you're focused on?
We would like any and every tenant to be organized, but currently we are mainly focused on multi-unit, multi-family structures. The two buildings that we're at, one of which has 50 units, and the other is 4 different buildings, each building with 60 units or so. And the other prospecting buildings we're at are roughly in that same ballpark of 30 units to 60 units. Yep.
One more question, if anybody has one. Going once, still in place. Thank Sean.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right. And again, Coach Sean, if you want to get one of those things on our Northside NDFA Facebook page, and we're working to figure out how to get to Instagram, we'll happily do that. All right. The NDFA's hearing from 9th District candidates, the ride is about to leave the station, and it's going to be taken over the next couple meetings, so get ready, and we're glad that you're here because you're going to be able to hear some of the candidates in a little more detail than you might because of so many other people. And so again, thank you everybody. Thank you for folks that are coming in that we will be hearing from. And we will start. This happens to be my district, so this is actually my state senator that we're going to be hearing. First, I think we're going to have 5 or 6 or 7 folks that we think we would like to hear from. So we will start with, and we'll have about a 5-6 minute stump speech and then questions about 15 minutes. If you're online, put a question in the comments. We'll see if we can get it to you. So again, First candidate, State Senator Mike Simmons.
Hello, Northside Dems. My name is Mike Simmons, and I serve as the state senator for the 7th District, which includes Ravenswood, where we are right now, Lincoln Square, where I was born and raised, Uptown, Edgewater, Rogers Park, Arcadia Terrace, Buttlawn Woods, Wrigleyville, and Westridge. And thank you so much to Northside DFA, not only for organizing this meet and greet tonight, but for always championing our democracy. I remember when I was a youngster, actually I'm from not far from here. I grew up right at Foster and Lincoln, so it's just the next Brown Line stop from here over to Western and a few blocks north. I remember seeing the Northside DFA activists fighting against the machine back in 2007 and 2008. You know, and I've always taken inspiration from that, knowing that the area where I grew up on the north side of Chicago has a progressive core of people who have fought back against the machine and who have fought to empower the grassroots has been really inspirational to me, and it's part of the legacy that I carry as your state senator. So thank you to Northside DFA for always fighting the good fight. You know, yeah, we should give them a round of applause. They're blazing the trail for us in democracy at a time where democracy is being curtailed. So I'm state senator. I'm running for Congress right now in the 9th District to represent you at the 9th District to replace Jan Schakowsky. And let me tell you a little bit about why and who I am. So in the last 4.5 years of serving in the state Senate, I've been proud to, first of all, set up a co-governing office where I've been able to pass nearly 50 bills into law, but half of them have come directly from our constituents. So people in our communities who have come to our district office who have been in crisis, dealing with housing insecurity, as the gentleman talked about right before me, or who are struggling to afford basic necessities like food or childcare. Those are the people that we have championed in the Illinois Senate, and I'm proud of the number of the bills that we've been able to pass, including Illinois' first ever child tax credit, which went live last year. That was the very first piece of legislation I introduced when I got to Springfield in 2021. So proud that that is now the law of the land in the state of Illinois. Another bill that has come from the experiences of people that live in this district is legislation I worked on with Governor Pritzker last year, and I was able to get it passed out of the Senate that erases medical debt for 340,000 households across Illinois. Households that will never be able to pay off medical bills who are often struggling with student loans and are unable to find work, or if they're working in low-wage jobs. That is going to help our families to get back on their feet, and so I'm proud of the work that we've been able to get done in the Illinois Senate. And the other thing that I'm really proud about is just representation. I'm the first person to serve in the state Senate from this district who is Ethiopian American. My dad came over here as an asylum seeker from Ethiopia in the early 1980s. Him and my mother actually met at a nightclub in Lakeview. He was playing the guitar, and thank God they met, because if they hadn't, I wouldn't be standing here as the first Ethiopian American state senator representing the very block that I grew up on and the communities that helped raise me. My mother was a Black American woman who owned a salon in Rogers Park, and like I said, raised me in this community and really did everything she could to foster in me an appreciation for people from all across the world, just like we see in the 9th District. Her salon in Rogers Park was home to so many people that look so much like this district, people from every part of the world that were extended kin and extended family for me and are still our closest family friends. Those are the people that I'm running and representing Congress right now. I'm talking about our neighbors from places like Eritrea and Guatemala who are afraid to walk down the street right now because of immigration raids and mass deportations. That is an anxiety and a trauma that I didn't even have to grow up experiencing as a first-generation kid of a refugee parent. And so our country is sliding backwards. That our neighbors right now in our neighborhoods are afraid of somebody showing up with a mask. And a lot of our families came here escaping that very same scenario. So I'm running for Congress to fight for them so that they don't have to be afraid. I'm running for Congress for our kiddos who are struggling with an epidemic of mental health that my generation did not know. A generation that has been on social media and has had so much saturation that makes them feel inadequate. A generation that survived the pandemic. A generation that is living through a time of endless political trauma that we all are experiencing. I'm going to Congress to fight for our kids so that they can experience wellness and have mental health parity. I'm running for Congress to fight for low-income people all across the 9th District, whether you live in Niles, Skokie, or Uptown, who are struggling to find work. who are afraid that they're not going to be able to retire someday. I'm running for their kids who want their parents to retire with Social Security and not have to be worried about Medicaid and Medicare cuts. Those are just some of the communities that I'm fighting for. I'm running for Congress to champion public transit at a time where our state legislature has not had the courage to act on this issue, and at a time where our bus operators and our train operators are worried about service cuts. I want to be an outspoken advocate for those people in Congress, and I want to get things done for them so that we can have new investments in our public transit, new investments in housing, new investments in social services for our immigrant families, and new investments for our children who deserve to grow up and live healthy lives in a democracy that sustains them. And finally, I would say that I'm fighting to just defend and guard our democracy. Our country is unwinding. We're seeing book bans, we're seeing limitations on curriculum. As the first openly LGBTQ person to serve in the Illinois Senate, I don't have an ounce of tolerance for efforts to erase people like me and people that come from the LGBTQ communities from our libraries and our school classrooms. This is, again, another trauma that our generation didn't live through and that our current kids are having to experience. So it's a robust agenda that I'm running on. In the state senate, I've been known as a champion for all people and as somebody who is unafraid to go against the democratic establishment when it's necessary, just like the Northside DFA has done for decades, and as somebody that can come home with bills actually passed. And so I thank you for your time and attention tonight, and I ask that you will please sign my petition so we can get on the ballot. It's right over there. Take a lit piece, and you can follow me at Instagram at Senator Mike Simmons, and I'm on Blue Sky at Mike Simmons L. Thank you so much for having me here tonight, everybody.
All right. The floor is open for questions.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So, if you were elected, you'd have to go to the environment that's pretty purple, and you'd have to work with Republicans or Democrats that you would agree with. How do you intend to get bills passed? How do you intend to build relationships with people who probably don't agree with you on those things?
Yeah. So it's an excellent question. And what was your name?
Nicole.
Nicole is asking, okay, Mike, if you get elected to Congress, how are you going to work with Republicans in a context where a lot of people are coming from purple districts? So this is actually a great case study for the work that I've done in the Illinois Senate. While we have supermajorities, I've been proud that I've passed a significant number of pieces of legislation that, for example, remove requirements that seniors have to keep certifying that they're seniors or that people are disabled so that they can get their public transit benefits. Common sense legislation that a constituent who's disabled brought to me, that we co-governed and we drafted legislation and worked with Republicans to pass that bill. So I believe very much in working with those that don't agree with me when we share the same goal, right? Our people should be able to ride public transit. Our streets should be safe for cyclists and pedestrians and those that are disabled, right? These are the kind of things that I think we can get broad-based support for. But the thing about it is that I'm never going to compromise my values. I can't work with Republicans or Democrats that think that we should stop talking about protecting trans youth. Woo! I can't compromise when it comes to the civil rights of people who generations before them fought so that they could have those rights. So, I think that, and I've got this question on the campaign trail from people who say that Congress is so dysfunctional. Why would you want to go there? And what I tell them is that right now we need outspoken champions who have courage, who are going to go to the Congress and who are going to fight through the fire for our communities. That means speaking up. That means organizing with the grassroots. That means using the office of congressperson creatively to empower people at the ground level. That is the work that I want to do as a congressperson for the 9th District. And what better district in the country to send a message to the rest of the country that we believe in robust and audacious representation that puts the people first, no matter who the Speaker of the House is, who the Majority Leader of the United States Senate is, or whoever happens to occupy the White House. I will always fight for this community.
Yes, Mike, what are your views with regard to the Gaza war and what U.S. foreign policy should be toward that region?
Yeah, it's another excellent question. So let me tell you all that I mentioned earlier that I'm the son of an asylum seeker from Ethiopia. And so that means in the course of one generation in my family, we have experienced the intergenerational trauma that comes with leaving a war-torn country where my own uncle was disappeared at the age of 24 years old, never came home one night, where my dad and my uncles had to flee at night when their mother didn't even know they were leaving to come to be granted asylum in the United States. I am somebody who will always fight for and believe in global peace. I think that global peace is still possible. I think that we need more members of Congress that are willing to believe in it and put the work into it, put the shoe leather into it, and exercise our levers of diplomacy and foreign policy to get there. And I think that also means being honest that we have a humanitarian crisis happening right now in Gaza where there are still children that are starving, where food has been withheld from them, where nutrition has been withheld from families. Over 60,000 people that have perished or have been injured as a result of this crisis. And so we need unafraid leadership in the United States that will point that out and will talk about this issue and do everything that we can with our diplomacy and the powers of U.S. foreign policy to bring an end to the suffering in that region. And so that is the work that I think it is really important for whoever the 9th District Congressperson to do, and that will be the front lines of protecting human rights and global peace in the Middle East and every other region of the world that has been affected by war, displacement, or ethnic conflicts, just like I have in my own family, where right now I, as the son of an Ethiopian refugee, cannot visit the very village where my grandfather came in Gondar, Ethiopia, because that region of Ethiopia is now overrun by war and conflict.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I live in the 9th Presidential District. I appreciate you being here and willing to ask or answer tough questions. But I have two things. One, what is your stance on Medicare for all? As someone who has a job, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, good insurance. I just had major surgery, and even that insurance is not willing to pay for that procedure. I could have died if I didn't have it, so it wasn't like it wasn't elected. So something like Medicare for all is extremely important to me. So I just want to know what your stance on that is, and would you fight for something?
Yes. Yes, I support Medicare for all. Say it again. I support Medicare for all. It's long overdue. It's long overdue, and I'm sorry that you had to experience that. And I bet that there are probably half the people in this room who themselves or a person they love has had to argue with an insurance company about a benefit that insurance company would have been a drop in the bucket for them to cover. So we need outspoken members of Congress, and definitely from the 9th District, where you have people that live in every part of the 9th District, whether you're talking about Crystal Lake or parts of Lake County and right on down here in Lincoln Square, who are suffering in the same way that you have. So we need universal health care in this country. We need Medicare for all. I think that it is long past time that our country had a reckoning when it comes to our healthcare system. And here's the thing. Right now, the Republican Congress has left us no choice. They have picked this fight with us. They passed this, I know they call it the big beautiful call. I call it the stupid ass bill. The big stupid ass bill that imposes the largest cuts to Medicaid that we have seen in modern history. It would make Ronald Reagan blush. That is the context of what we're seeing coming out of Washington right now. And so we need leaders in this congressional seat who understand what it's like to have a bureaucrat on the other side of the line deny you a claim and then hang up on you. Or what it's like, what I experienced in 2017 when I was an entrepreneur, being on the phone with an insurance company for 50 minutes, for them to then pick up and not remember that they talked to me 50 minutes ago. That is infuriating for a mother that has 2 or 3 children who's now worried that she's going to have Medicaid work requirements and already can't find a job or can't make enough money to feed her kids. And people like yourselves at your age that should just be able to live freely and have access to health care. So Medicare for all, and if I get elected to Congress, that'll be one of the first bills that you will see me champion and will fight for and reintroduce and put everything I've got into making it a reality.
So we're in a unique moment in our history. We're very
Speak up, please.
where the structures of our Republican governance and our democracy are being tested. My question to you is, what are you going to do when the shoe is on the other foot? How are you going to protect the prerogatives of Congress within the context of the separation of powers when the president's a Democrat?
Yeah, so it's a shrewd question because right now we're seeing not even a Republican president. You know, the MAGA movement has taken over the Republican Party. I don't know if you all have seen this in a political context. You know, the Republican, like I said, Reagan would blush if he saw what the MAGA Republicans were doing right now. So they're in charge, and the first thing I want you to know is if you vote for me as your congressperson, if I win the primary and I get elected to be your congressperson, I will be bringing vigorous oversight over the Trump administration day in and day out, asking the tough questions, chasing down the bureaucrats and the secretaries, and insisting that they honor the prerogatives of our U.S. Congress. I'm wearing a shirt that has the Great Lakes on it today because I am pissed off that the Trump administration issued an executive order that takes away the collective bargaining rights of over 8,000 federal EPA workers who right now can no longer can bargain for their workers' rights, and who are not going to be able to get plastics and PFAS and forever chemicals out of the Great Lakes. That's the kind of spirit and energy that I would bring as a congressperson when interacting with the executive branch. And even if it's a Democrat that's president, there are going to be times when I, as a progressive and proudly liberal congressperson, am going to question the Democratic leadership because I believe that Democrats have been very complacent in recent years. And it's time that newer Democrats that are bringing new blood to the party talk about that. And I've done that in the state senate. I mean, I've been somebody who has gotten a lot of bills passed, but there have been times when I have been a pain in the ass in leadership. And that's the kind of district that I'm from, where I know I have the backing of people in my district that want their elected officials to speak up and not just wait for the president or the governor or whoever else to tell them what to do. And so that's my commitment to you, is to bring that vigorous oversight of the executive branch, no matter who's in the White House, Democrat or Republican.
2, maybe 3 more questions this side.
One question to follow on Nicole's. If you get elected, you'll be in an environment where there are numerous people that don't respect you as either a human being or even, worthy to be in the country. How do you talk to somebody like Marjorie? I mean,
Yeah.
really, and maybe you don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that the Democrats have been sitting on that something or other.
Yeah.
And even now, there are a handful that are actually speaking up. And it's very frustrating because I feel impotent. There's no power. We have no power. And we can talk as much as we want. We need to get elected, more democratic elected people.
Yeah.
Whatever office.
Yeah, it's such a thoughtful question, and when in the state senate there was an episode in 2023. So I was sworn in 2021. In 2022, first thing I had to experience was, you remember Darren Bailey ran for governor? So Darren Bailey, one time we were having a debate in the Senate around sex ed, and he made an innuendo about LGBTQ families like my family, where he used the word perversion. And I shot back against that, and I got up and I addressed the presiding officer because no one else would say anything. No one else spoke up at that time. And I said, I asked that this person's words be stricken from the record because I wouldn't want any family in Illinois to think that there's anything perverted about their family because their family is a family like mine. It happened again in 2023 when another Republican senator threatened to beat up trans youth if they used a gender-neutral restroom. He said those words on the Senate floor in the Illinois State Senate, and no one was saying anything. And I, again, got up on my feet and I addressed the presiding officer and I said, shame on the Republican senator for coming here on his taxpayer salary and threatening to beat people up for something as simple as an act of nature. And so I can tell you that when I get to Congress, I will bring the same fighting spirit. And I'm not just talking about it, I've already done it. That is the leadership that I've brought to the state senate. I've been effective there, but I've shaken the place up. And I know my colleagues would back me up on that. And that is the song and dance I would have with a Marjorie Taylor Greene. I will never let her bring me out of character. I won't. My mother taught me, you never let people bring you out of your skin. But I will be stealing and standing for our values. And our values are inclusive. They protect all. And there are going to be some people in Congress that will try to act like I'm not there. And I'm going to resist them with everything I've got because I know I've got the community behind me.
One final question.
So my question is, it's been less than 250 days since Trump arrived. It feels like
that where we're at right now is going to be generally the same as where we're at on Inauguration Day for the new congressman. I think it's weird thinking. I'm interested in how are you in a crisis? How are you when someone plans to pull the rug out from under you, change the rules on you, tries to bait you as well as buy you out?
Yeah.
Help me with that.
Well, I'll never be bought out. I'll never be bought out. And you know, I grew up a low-income kid in scattered site public housing in Lincoln Square, a result of a 1976 Supreme Court decision that desegregated public housing in Chicago. And so I know what it's like to grow up with nothing. So my integrity is all I've got. And there's no price on that. And so if I'm serving in Congress, I'm moving in that place all my values at all time. I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do as an elected official. And the example I would point to is just the way that I've handled myself in the role that I currently have in the state Senate. I don't bow down to lobbyists. I don't bow down to those that have wealth and privilege who have had their way in Springfield for far too long. I don't pick favorites when it comes to people that need things from the government. If people come into the office and they need service, you provide that service. And you do your best that you can try to repair people's confidence in government, because that has been lost over many years. And so, you know, serving in Congress would be, I think, an extension. I think you would see the same kind of person I've been in the state Senate, but just at a grander scale. And that's frankly another reason why I'm running, is because I am energized at the prospect to be able to take the work that we've done in the state Senate to the national level at a time when fierce leadership and people who are going to be unafraid and willing to champion the people they represent and be able to be effective while doing it and actually get things done is direly needed. In fact, I think the survival of our country is going to depend on that. And engaged citizens like yourselves that hold us accountable and have these kind of opportunities for people to get to know the candidates. So, you know, I'm proud of the work that I've done in the state Senate. And I think that the work that I can do in Congress would be that work on a bigger scale where the stakes are actually a lot higher.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Whew. Okay. So we are obviously in a time where there are people that feel kind of leading on that last question, that need to try to do something to not feel powerless. So one of the things that we want to try to do here at the meetings, again, we work with candidates, and that is certainly one thing that you can do no matter what candidate you support. But we also want to kind of keep you abreast of other ways to stay involved, to be part of various communities. That is one way we fight, we win, and we survive from what I like to say, gestures wildly. Ray, do you have a couple of those opportunities?
Yeah. This Saturday, there's a rally downtown sponsored by Indivisible for the Texas candidates, or not candidates, the Texas Democrats. So go on to indivisible.com and sign up, and then they'll tell you once you sign up where they're going to be downtown. They're still getting it organized and stuff like that. Everybody's doing petitions now, and they just started August 5th, and it's going to go through November, beginning in November sometime.
October 27th.
October 27th.
That's the first day.
Thank you.
That's the first day to put those petitions in, to sign up for them. And well, just when you sign it, the most important thing is when you sign a petition, you're not voting for that person. You're just letting democracy actually happen and giving them a chance to run. That's how you have to look at it. You can't look at it, I'm voting for you. It's like everybody deserves a chance to run. And that's why we're here doing this. So.
Okay, I see a couple hands up. At the end of the meeting, we'll give people a chance to talk about some other issues. I do want to just say really quickly, for people like me who probably spend way too much time on social media, you may have seen stories that the Texas Democrats have flown back to Texas. That is not the case. They are still holding their filibuster. I understand Gavin Newsom's doing something. And by the way, if you are on social media and you want a little bit of joy, whatever you think of Gavin Newsom as a politician, Gavin Newsom, the social media creature, is a work of art. And you should probably try to find it.
You can donate to the Texas government.
Okay, and so so again, if you go to the Indivisible and
Indivisible, there's like a TexasDemocrats.org.
TexasDemocrats.org if you want to help them. Just support them, probably with some hotel bills, laundry, and the like, because they're human and they have to do these things. And with all of that, then let's move on to our second candidate for the 9th District. A young candidate in her 20s with a social media presence, but not that one. That one's going to be here in September, by the way. Kat Adesegler will be here. But we are going to listen to someone who is born and raised in Chicago and is currently a member of the Skokie, the Board of Ed in the city of Skokie, which she ran and won, which is really cool. And her name is Bushra Amiwala. And please come on up. Ray, get out of the frame.
No, I felt bad. I saw you try passing earlier, and I was like, you're allowed. Thank you all so much for being here today. Hello, everyone. My name is Bushra Amiwala. Nice to see you all. Senator Simmons, I don't know how you did this with a bright light in your face so graciously. It's an honor to speak right after you. Good to see you all. The first time I ever interacted with NDFA, by the way, I was a teenager. I was 19 years old, a freshman in undergrad, and I was running for the Cook County Board of Commissioners against a 16-year Democratic incumbent. And NDFA was one of the few organizations at that time that welcomed me in with open arms and taught me exactly how to run for public office. And there are a lot of organizations, even today, that are not willing to engage in that conversation. And there are even fewer that were around in 2017, 2018. So it means a lot for me to be here today. My story is fundamentally incomplete without sharing my father's story first. My dad came to the United States from Karachi, Pakistan in the 80s with $20 in his pocket, literally, and an abundance of dreams. He worked extremely hard to make ends meet and worked every job from bussing tables to flipping burgers to delivering pizzas to driving a taxi to later owning his own clothing store on the west side of Chicago called Chicago Style, because we're quite the marketers in this family. And I only lead with that because some of my earliest childhood memories involve living in our one-bedroom apartment in the north side of Rogers Park, sitting around my dad, my 3 siblings and I, and him telling us stories about how when he was our age, his first job was selling eggs, and how he could bring the cracked eggs to his sisters the following morning to share for breakfast. So for me, hearing that growing up in an apartment with centralized air conditioning, I felt so grateful to be born and raised in this country. And that spirit of gratitude has inspired every single ounce of service that I've given back to. I was an avid volunteer in high school. You know how they say when you volunteer and you peak in high school, you don't stop talking about it? Here's my high school peak moment. So I was an avid volunteer at 5 different nonprofits, the 5 days of the week, right on the north side of Chicago. I moved to Skokie at that time and would take the yellow line over to the Howard Red Line stop, and issues from poverty, hunger, homelessness, food insecurity, and education inequality 5 days of the week. That doesn't mean I was a loser, because I was also the national debate champion way back when, but also homecoming queen too, so not loser. And I say all this to say that I was incredibly naive when it came to government and politics at that time. I took an AP Gov class my senior year of high school, and this was in December of 2015, where our homework assignment was to watch GOP debates and discuss who we'd be voting for the upcoming election season. And that's when I found a lot of my friends said they'd be voting for Donald Trump to be president. And here we are, almost 10 years later, the fact that he's still our president today, it pains me. It actually physically pains me. And I'm sure it does to a lot of you, because there are few people that are paying attention to the electoral and political process 7 months ahead of a Democratic primary in a blue state, by the way. So I ran for the Cook County Board, and I had a progressive platform on a means-based property taxation model. I remember when we moved to Skokie, the question was every year if we can afford to stay because of how expensive our property taxes were living in that area. And that meant you have a billionaire who owns a one-bedroom apartment, and they're taxed in a uniquely different way, and it would involve in rewriting the Illinois Constitution. And again, this was way back when, before AOC was elected to Congress, and this was before, well, I'm trying to think of another, and this was 3 months into Donald Trump being our president. Just this is where we were at a time in history and society. So now I have successfully served on a board of education for the past 7 years. Upon a week of me getting elected, I made it so to increase transparency. Before that, unless you were physically present at a board meeting, there would be no way for you to know what happened during that meeting. We live streamed those meetings, had recordings available for working families to watch what went down in these spaces, and emailed their public comments before and after during the meeting without physically being there. As a lower income student myself, I knew that growing up, I couldn't ask my parents for $200 to do art class after school, and that's why I'm still bad at art. But now being on the Board of Ed now, we've made it so that our schools every other year go back and forth from being what's called a Title IX school, meaning some years our students, 33% of them or more, are on free and reduced lunch, and some years they're not. That classification makes our budgeting process as a public school institution incredibly difficult, and it's something that's not talked about often enough. So now when I'm running for Congress and I'm advocating for education and public education, it's not just college for all, it's not just public education for all, but it's talking about K through 12 schools, and even if we increase a 0.5% of our federal funding sources to our public schools, that would alleviate the burden off of property taxpayers like all of you, even people who pay rent by extensions of those neighborhoods. I'm running on a platform of Medicare for all. Not because it's the touchy-feely, fancy thing to say, but it's the economically feasible, fiscal responsible, and logical mode for our country to adopt to, and there's a reason why every modern country, and even not modern countries, in the world have adopted to this model. And it doesn't make logical sense that as individuals, corporations, and public institutions, we pour this much money into privatized insurance. I'm advocating for immigration. Being on the Board of Education, you typically stay and oversee your schools, but I've been championing this ICE rapid response trainings with partnership with organizations like ICER since February, when I got the first call of ICE in our streets and in our neighborhood, and was the person that interpreted and translated in Spanish for, unfortunately, an impacted family right here in my home in Skokie. So this is incredibly personal to me. I'm running for Congress because I, at the time, was incredibly underwhelmed with what our options looked like, and I wanted to be excited and inspired in electing someone that's now a generational pivoting moment. Here we are almost 30 years later with a chance to have a choice of who's representing us in this capacity, and now here we are with 20 candidates. We're lucky to have so many options, by the way. It will force and push all of us to be better candidates, to show up in spaces like this and look around to see who actually came today. I know there was an invitation extended to a handful and there will be many iterations, but that speaks volumes too. And to close, I'm excited to answer a lot of the questions. I know this is a very easy walk in the park question crowd that has stayed true and on brand and consistent with what I knew from 8 years ago. And you're welcome to repeat a lot of the same questions that you all asked Senator Simmons too. Thank you.
All right, so repeat. I'd like to know what you'll do when you go to a very purple environment and you have to work with Republicans or with very right-leaning Democrats. What are you going to do to get legislation across the finish line?
Great question. The question was from Nicole, who asked, what will I do going into an incredibly purple and, I'll add a word, divisive environment, and how will I work with right-leaning Democrats and Republicans? Something that I didn't share in this 5-minute interaction was that my very first internship in my life was, I was a legislative canvassing intern for then U.S. Republican Senator Mark Kirk. And my job was to go door to door to various registered Republican voters' homes, 3 miles north from my home in Skokie in Glenview, Illinois, and ask them a series of 5 questions. So I'd come in front of all of you, I'd say, do you all like chocolate ice cream? or vanilla ice cream. Strawberry's not an option because democracy is not fully fair. You all say chocolate ice cream, and I say, I like chocolate ice cream too. So I was doing that for the US Senator at the time, and the very first question on that list of 5 was on a scale of 1 to 10. How fearful are you of an Islamic terror attack on US soil? So there are some instances where, yeah, I asked the question looking like this, and the answer I get in response was 10, very fearsome, and me standing at their front porch wasn't helping, by the way. But I lead with this story because there are some instances where there actually is no common ground. There is no common ground on a question like that, and that being the first question as well. But then there are instances right now where I saw the name Marjorie Taylor Greene came up, where Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene offered an amendment to a piece of legislation that would have curtailed $500 million in federal funding that was being sent to a nation abroad, that nation being Israel. I'll say it directly. And there were progressives who refused to vote for that amendment simply because it was a Republican representative that passed that forward, and that is the type of cowardness that I will not abide by either. And thank you for the question.
So, as a congressperson, you would have an opportunity to seek federal funding to bring back into the district through earmarks.
Yes.
Are there specific ideas that you have where you think there could be opportunities in this district to bring in federal funds?
Great question. The question for social media right now, who have a microphone, was that there are opportunities to bring back federal funding back into home to the district. What are some ideals and norms that I have in mind? So first, alluding to the demographics of who lives in this area. Fun facts galore. I love a good fun fact. Illinois 9 is home to the most places of worship per capita than any other congressional district in the country. And I say that because faith is actually a communal space for a lot of people, but what about people who don't identify with faith? What is that third space, apart from maybe even a library, right? You can't chat in libraries like that. So first it would be third spaces, meaning a space you don't have to pay money to participate. All are welcome. There is free public Wi-Fi that people can have access to work as either co-working spaces, as networking spaces. People can have event spaces. It can be the NDFA's next event could be there. So first would be free third spaces for communities of anyone who lives in Illinois 9, debatably beyond, to join and welcome and enjoy. And second one that I have in mind, I think about cultural spaces. So again, fun fact, Illinois 9 is home to the largest Assyrian American community in the state. So Assyrian Americans are those who have survived from the Armenian genocide, and the first Assyrian American Cultural Center is in Illinois 9, in Lincolnwood, yet that is actually the only in the state that we've had thus far. And this demographic is another that are almost those hidden and forgotten demographics because they're Arab Christian, so they don't necessarily have that faith tie that has advocacy being affiliated towards them. But there's those types of groups that, again, deserve their cultural spaces to be shown up in that way. So those are just a couple examples of the thought process and nuance that goes into representing an area that is so rich in diversity beyond what you can maybe just chat GBT and look up online. And thanks for the question.
Okay. Actually, yeah, because you asked the question before, so and then you'll
Oh yeah, sure. Hi, Bushra, you may know me from high school, and because I know you. That's the one thing. Although to be honest, her last name is harder to type than mention her last name. He is retired, and I was inspired by an anti-war statement, not politician statement, who predicted endless wars for decades from 2007 GOP debate, who correctly explained blowback named wrongful against Rudy Giuliani on 9/11. He's actually right in my opinion. And Thomas Massey is actually primaried by Donald Trump for voting on speak youthful bit. And Trump endorsed Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham related issue be.
Can I ask you to please answer the question?
And it is my foreign policy question.
Okay. So we never.
What would you do to end the endless wars are unconstitutional? Because I need someone like you to be the anti-war or the modern Democrats, like a principled and consistent Democrat who votes no on everything unconstitutional, even if it means reading every bill, like thousands of pages, and like getting your part. It says my prevail and this percentage of our generation for the Democrats from the previous generation.
Okay,
and I know you person behind it.
Please give her a chance to ask and also ask some other questions.
I got you, Ron Wall. So I did not plant Ron Wall to say that, by the way, for what it's worth. But very good to see you. And yes, me and Ron Wall have known each other since high school. So the question at summary was, how will one actually maintain an anti-war stance? Because a lot of us can say it, a lot of us can agree, and it comes back to why are people voting in favor for wars to begin with? And it's because of the people that signed their checks that got them elected to begin with. So I am refusing not only corporate PAC money, which I've been doing since my 2018 Cook County Board election, but it also means rejecting foreign policy money that includes from organizations like APAC, organizations like DMFI, organizations that have any foreign lobbying institution met with them, not only rejecting that money, but they'll probably be spending their money against a candidate like me anyways. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much for being here. I think you were probably enrolled in school at some type of campus a couple years back in the area.
DePaul.
Okay. During the time when the encampment stuff happened.
DePaul and Northwestern.
At DePaul and U of Chicago.
Northwestern.
So I imagine you kind of had options in front of you. Like, do I want to be really, really super involved in this, or do I want to kind of be at arm's length? How much do I want to do with this? So like how did you approach that, and how did that work out for you? What was your decision-making process?
Great question. The question was, I was a graduate student at Northwestern at the time. I had a decision to be either super involved, medium involved, low involved with the encampment organizations happening around college campuses across the country. My undergrad, I went to DePaul University. I was an attendee at both DePaul University and Northwestern University's encampment fronts for multiple days as not only a grad student, but attended my alumni campus as well to attend. I made fun videos about them too, and I only allude to that because that means you're opening the conversation nationally to show that this is a larger scale conversation and movement that is occurring. That also meant that just by virtue of my faith, I was grandfathered into conversations with admin and leadership, which were, candidly speaking, few to none, by the way. But we were, as the Muslim Student Association, we were tapped into what the demands would look like, and they weren't necessarily held or even heard, by the way, in the encampments. Both of them were unfortunately very forcibly shut down. But while I was there were beautiful demonstrations where people of all different ages, faiths, backgrounds, demographics, identities were coming with food to donate. I went with umbrellas because that Friday it rained and downpours, so Dollar Tree can get them for $1.25, at least then you could. And it really was a way to contribute beyond what I could do when I felt like my hands were tied. Thanks for the question. Absolutely.
So it sounds like you're kind of somewhat deep in the process.
I'd say middle. Don't want to take more credit, but go ahead.
I was around it a little bit, probably not as much as you. There was a lot of intense talk about socialist theory and a lot of revolutionary talk. Everything was a revolution. Every single thing was a revolution. It was all about revolutionary Marxism, kind of on the inside anyway. What did you think of all of that?
So the question was, there was a lot of revolutionary theory. You alluded to, did you say Marxism? Did you allude to, can you allude to, because I was not a part of the revolutionary theory conversations, but if you allude to one, I can comment on what my opinion on that one is.
I think some of the people involved were probably ML.
They were what?
ML.
ML?
Marxist-Leninists.
Got it. Okay. So I'm assuming the conversations were along the lines of down with the government will never work in favor of us. Am I putting down somewhat accurately what the conversation was? So while I wasn't fully present in those, as someone who has held previous elected government office for the past 7 years and is now running for higher political office, I can assume that I'm a part of the camp that believes that there actually is change that comes from being internally and present and earning a seat at the table in tandem. And although revolutionary forces push government forward, that as an institution might be the way that we're at as a current nation to actually push progress and change forward. But again, I wasn't in those circles, but fancy that you got to listen in on those.
Two more questions in the, Isaiah in the back.
Hi. I want to follow up on the question about force. Are there any authorizations for use of military force such as police support? How would you think about getting those? Because they'll come apart.
Would you be willing to repeat that? Did you say?
Repeat the question.
You said, is there any use of force resolutions that you would support?
There we go.
Oh, okay, got it. The question was, are there any use of force authorizations, thank you for the word, that I would support? So, first, when I say anti-war, it's not a pie in the sky idea. I could bring it back to, and this is detailed on my website as well, any country that is in violation of Leahy law, which means that they are in gross violations of human rights, should not be receiving a penny from not only the United States, but any other nation in the world. And so it's not just a blanket statement that should be taken in a vacuum. You look at the unfortunate instance that's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now, we absolutely should be giving humanitarian aid and aid to a country like Ukraine that is not the perpetrator, but actually the recipient of abhorrent, again, someone else that's violating that Leahy law towards them. So it's not necessarily a blanket statement to be made in that way, and hopefully I think that answers the question too. Thank you.
I saw somebody.
I think you're the only school board member running in this race. To change it up, what educational priorities would you have when you're in Congress?
Great question. The question was, the only school board member running in this race, what educational priorities? So, not only have I been on a board of education for the past 7 years, it's been a suburban board of education, which is very different from CPS schools. So I grew up attending CPS schools, moved to Skokie Public Schools when I was 9 years old, and I've been serving representing that board for the same schools that I attended growing up. That means when we have conversations with unions, they aren't as divisive because our board has already done a really good job making sure classroom sizes are under 20 students per class, right? So now the burden and the crux and the onus is not on these teachers to have to advocate for how they need to get ensured that payment in a more equitable way. But that's something our school district has successfully done, that at a federal but also even state level is required to make that institutionalized. I also am on the executive board for EdRed, which is Illinois Suburban Education Advocacy Organization. And one thing I'll tell you from serving on there is that one of the hardest things to push, and I think Senator Simmons could agree with this too, is any mandate in the education field. Because schools are all so diverse and so different for the students and the needs that they serve. So the number one priority that I come down to would not to be mandate X type of curriculum change at the federal level or Y type of protection, but it really comes back to the funding model because it ties down to three different things. The reason why your zip code determines the quality of not only education that your children will have in schools, but schools are the nucleus of a healthy community. You can tell by a public school the quality that the libraries will have, that the parks will have, that even services like garbage disposal and pickup will have on a consistent basis. Meaning when we talk about a 0.5% increase in federal funding sources to our schools, let's just take it from the defense fund. We got plenty of money to blow on that front, no pun intended. That means that right now our public schools, the maximum amount of federal funding they receive from federal sources is no more than 10%. And that is appalling. And that is why certain states are so disproportionately funded. And that means that an area like mine that is 70% residential with only 30% commercial properties, that means that it's incredibly expensive to live in what should be a traditionally middle-class, healthy community type of school. So first is that. Second is I have friends from high school who went on to work at NASA, get drafted in the NFL, and perform on Broadway. And I have friends who could have done that much and more, but couldn't afford to go to college. And as someone who's a proud FAFSA recipient who received it in full, FAFSA alone would not have covered my tuition at DePaul University. I was lucky to have received external scholarships as well in tandem to that earned me an educational spot there. So that's why public education for all at the collegiate level needs to be institutionalized. Oakton Community College, the #1 community college in the country, is in Illinois 9. Let's protect it, let's fund it, and these FAFSA cuts that were, again, as Senator Simmons says, the one shitty bill, disproportionately impacts these community colleges far more than it's talked about right now. And thanks for the question.
I know. So that was over 20 minutes. But again, thank you. For Mike and Amira will be here with the live audience to talk more, because some of these questions we get a lot more questions. I admit I'm being a little bit of a time, so I'm not sure if our third speaker is here yet. So is Miracle here? So just two quick. I mean, a bit of snark and a bit of recommendation. When I was listening to the Marxist-Leninist question, it reminded me of a T-shirt I'm still trying to find from my college days that said, "I'm a Marxist-Leninist," and it was a picture of Groucho Marx and John Lennon. And Amira, you were talking about the Assyrian community, and I immediately went to a phenomenal play that Looking Glass Theater just produced by a woman named Atra Azdu called Iraq But Funny. And Atra was also an Assyrian. It's more from her parents. I don't know if you got to see it. It just got nominated for a Jeff Award for new play. We're lucky we're in Chicago. We get to see things like that. And so I'm done killing some time here. And we are getting close to, if we are done with speakers, another part of what we do every month here at NDFA, which is to vote and endorse candidates. To do that, you need to be a member. Hey, Ray, how does one become a member of NDFA?
Gotta ask Mary Claire. No, I'm teasing. You come to 3 meetings, and then you gotta sign in too, so we know you exist. And then you work for 3 different events that then you go online to our website and you put those events in, and after that, you are a member. So, we have a question.
I see a hand out.
I see a hand. I can't really.
The events can be supporting anything that has a fairly blue tinge. So you can go to rallies, you can pass petitions, you can go to a fundraiser, you can do all kinds of things, and it all counts, and you just fill out our form on our website. Upper right hand corner.
No, we want people to see.
Yes.
So, there we go. Okay.
It's a small spot, you can tell.
Right.
Okay.
So there we go. Hey now. So there you go.
United Working Families.
We're now in the announcement section.
We're kind of everywhere because we've lost our miracle. Is sponsoring a Northside Canvas event beginning at 10 a.m. Join them at 6501 Western Avenue this Saturday, August 16th. There's so many things going on. It's ridiculous. Our next meeting will be.
Hold on.
So canvassing for people on the slate. BT does.
BT. Okay. The slating. What was it?
You're talking about the 40th?
No, 50.
I don't know what 50th is.
50th ward. Okay.
I'm just saying, know who you're canvassing for. As someone who's unslated, I want you to think about who you're canvassing for when you go to one of these events.
Okay, so again, if you go to a canvassing board, these are going to be candidates that may have been endorsed by Cook County Democrats or a local, one of the local ward organizations or such, just to kind of be aware of that. And we have endorsed candidates who are not and who have not been slated, so they could certainly use a little bit of the extra help, and I'll happy enough to mention that as well. So we're gonna wrap up again. If Miracle Jenkins comes in, we will do this. Now, what we're about to do again for folks that are unfamiliar is what we normally do is we wait a month after we hear from candidates to vote on whether we will endorse them. And again, what that means is that all the work that you do contributes to your membership here and to be able to vote on other candidates. We're doing it a little different with the 9th, again, with Jan Jakowski's race, just because, again, there's so darn many candidates. We're going to hear from at least 3, maybe 4 in September, probably 1 more in October, and then vote. So we're going to kind of gather as much information as we can. And by the way, you can start to work for a candidate now, and it can kind of be retroactive. Should we endorse that candidate? That's something we've done as well. I saw a hand or two.
I thought you could work for a candidate
That's normally true, although because we've got so many races and so many candidates that we will be endorsing. But again, if you go to an indivisible rally, if you go to one of the 50501 rallies, that will count towards membership for NDFA, as long as you tell us, because that's important.
Anything with a faint blue tint.
Anything with a faint blue tint, yes. That's
Past endorsed candidates.
yes, that past endorsed candidates. That was Mary Stitch Marcus, who's our treasurer. It would be, I must remind you that we have an Act Blue page, so that if you would like to use it as a bit of a tip jar, so that we can continue to do things like streaming and helping other candidates, please do. We would be deeply appreciative of that. Are there other announcements? We'll hopefully keep it relatively tight. Sarah?
Can I have the mic for like 30 seconds?
Come on up, BJ.
All right, thank you.
Yes. You know where to stand?
Yeah, I do understand. So every once in a while, I like to get on a very short soapbox and remind everybody who's here that this is the work. So we've got amazing candidates for all kinds of positions in Chicago and nationally. This is the work. We are facing such an incredibly difficult time to be people who care about our neighbors, to be able to think about everyone around us and not just think about ourselves when we have this, not even creeping fascism, right? We have a president who says he wants to take over cities. He's not redecorating the White House because he wants to move out in a few years or plans to move out in a few years. George Carlin said something that stuck with me for a long time and has come back in my head. George Carlin, for everybody who's younger. He was a comedian who was pretty irreverent, but he said this thing: Germany lost World War II, but the fascists won. And when they come back, it's not going to be in jackboots, it's going to be in Nikes. It's going to be smiling. And that's where we're at. And the pressure that we can push back against that is stuff like this. It's the events that we're talking about over the weekends. It's going out and canvassing for these candidates. It doesn't matter which one you support, because these people all care in the same way we do. So keep up the work, and know when you're feeling down and bad that this work is buoying everybody. And try to hold on to that. So thank you all for being out here. Keep it up. Keep fighting.
By the way, EJ is the person that helps us stream these meetings live, so we want to thank him for that. Any other announcements? Or Sarah?
Yeah, so my campaign is going to 3 farmers markets, the Taylor Street Little Italy Fest, and the Glenwood Arts Fest this weekend. So go to sarahforwaterrec.org to sign up for shifts.
There we go. sarahforwaterrec.org. That's Sarah Bury. We love water and WRD candidates. That was, Deb Shore was our first candidate that we endorsed that won, so a special place in our hearts.
Kat, did you want to say anything?
Well, I'm hoping to get endorsed first, but hi everyone, my name's Kat Sharp. I'm running for Cook County Commissioner in the 12th District. I hope to circle back when there's a endorsement session and more formally present myself to you all. But I'm here. I'd love to talk to you about why I'm running and why I'm really excited about this seat. So I hope to connect with you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so for the folks that are here, we're going to be taking our meeting off the stream so we can have an endorsement session on 3 candidates. Again, thank you to Bushra and Mike for coming to today's meeting. We would love to have you here at Platform 47. Thank you to Platform 47 for having us. And so for those of you that are not members, you can stick around. We're going to take 5 to get another beer and such, and then you can kind of watch how the endorsement meet is made. Yes?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do we need, and I don't remember this, do we need to be in the area where we sign a petition for a candidate? Do we need to be in their district?
The question is, do you need to be in the district for a petition signing? Generally, yes. That's why the first they'll ask you, where do you live? Because those signatures can be struck if they're challenged. So just because you like a candidate, it's better if you actually are a potential voter. Pardon me? So yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
It's a long way of saying yes. All right, stick around.